In this section, we're going to talk about Agile in the software world, what it is, a little bit of background of some of the methodologies that's used, and how it differs from the old traditional waterfall way of building products. This section gives product leaders an overview of how Scrum uses an iterative style to build products. The best way to overcome product challenges is to build products in a fundamentally different way than in the past. This slide compares product value from an agile process with a non-agile or a waterfall process over time. The agile process delivers a working product in small, quick releases, shown here by the red line. A working product delivers product value in two ways. Number one, a working product has value for the learning it brings about product features. Customers return more valuable feedback from working prototypes and actual builds than they do when exposed only to ideas. Number two, a working product is valuable to customers because they can actually use and benefit from the product features. Product value is represented by the crosshatched section that includes the area behind the non-agile section. The non-agile process, represented by the grayed out section, shows only 2 releases with 2 learning corrections over the same amount of time. Compared to the agile process crosshatched area, the smaller non-agile section delivers less product value within the same time frame. This diagram compares the confidence of traditional waterfall and agile methodologies over time. So in the traditional waterfall, we're going to look at that first. Comparison is in the medical world where financial claims data is frequently used to track patient progress. This doesn't work well because 1/3 of the health costs are wasted on unneeded tests and drugs, and there isn't a direct connection between this financial data and patient health. So this is similar to the waterfall development, where you track development progress by checking off tasks in the project plan. This is not accurate because it measures work completed, not product value. Like the example of financial claims and patient health, it's a false connection that leads to overconfidence. Over time, this confidence in the project plan erodes as customers begin to use the product, voice their issues, and ask for changes. In contrast, Agile's confidence is initially low due to all of the unknowns. After all, this practice doesn't spend 6 months talking to customers and designing the system. Instead of counting tasks to measure progress, customers are exposed to the product early and often, and validated functionality is used to grade that progress. Customers ultimately want something that solves their problems, not a product that followed a project plan. Confidence rises as corrections are made, product value is added, and customer expectations are met. The Agile Manifesto became the foundation of Agile software development. I'm going to read 4 of the total of 12 principles. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. We welcome changing requirements, even late in development. Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. Deliver working software frequently, from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, with a preference to the shorter timescale. Business people and developers must work together daily throughout the whole project. So let's look at how this translates into a software development process. When you build a software product in a traditional or waterfall project, the outcome is shaped by 3 variables. Complete X features by Y date and make sure it all works. I'm sure everyone here has received these marching orders. Unfortunately, a triangle with 3 fixed sides leaves no room for flexibility and in the real world it's rare that all the goals for quality, features, and schedule are met. Something eventually has to give, and unplanned compromises end up changing the supposedly iron triangle. Compare the previous fixed iron triangle to one that has fixed quality and schedule, but with a flexible features leg. In this case, the feature side is shorter than planned, so some functionality didn't make it in the release. This is an important attribute of an agile development process. When products are built within a short, fixed schedule, it is said to be in a time box. A software development time box is typically 1 to 4 weeks. Whatever features make it into this fixed schedule are included in the release. Those that don't are pushed into the next. Because the features are flexible, the quality of those that do make it are never compromised. Quality and schedule are ironclad, and feature variability is part of the process and thus easily managed. Each time box is designed to produce a small working piece of functionality at a guaranteed pace. A fixed time frame forces frequent reprioritization. This assures that only the most important features are included in the short period. This is sometimes called train scheduling because it evokes the imagery of a train leaving the station at regular intervals on a specified schedule. Once you get used to this fixed pace, you become more comfortable with not getting what you want in a specific time box, since it can always be scheduled for the next train. Saturday Night Live uses timeboxing very effectively to produce a working product every week. The only variable is what skits get included. Everyone understands the weekly deadline, and the fixed time box leaves no room for delays or excuses. This results in a lot of entertainment produced over the period of a year. Say what you will about Saturday Night Live, it's a success that's lasted many years. Now, there are some proponents of a variability in a development cycle. So you have your same short cycles, 1 to 4 weeks, but allowing a bit of variance based on what the team decides to include. It can take less work to carve out functionality for variable cycles because the time boundary aligns easier with natural feature boundaries. When functionality is less chopped up, the build can be more intuitive and more natural. However, I still prefer the fixed schedule where everybody knows in the entire group and even perhaps the entire company when the cycles are and what's going to happen within those cycles and when the cutoff is. These principles of train scheduling, fixing the quality and schedule, and letting the feature slip come from software world, but it can actually be applied to any project. Now that we understand some of the principles of how an agile process operates, let's learn about Scrum. This is the most popular agile software development methodology, with twice the usage compared to other agile methods. At its heart, Scrum uses iteration and time boxing to create urgency. Since Agile's mantra is adaptability, many organizations have modified Scrum to fit their needs. This slide outlines the basics of what supplies the input to the Scrum process, how software is built, and what comes out. The product leader works with the customer to determine what functionality goes into the product and adds this to a repository called the backlog. The sprint is where the software is designed and built within a quick time box. So within the sprint, you have the product owner who prioritizes and communicates what needs to be built in the next sprint. In smaller organizations, the product owner may also be the product leader. In larger organizations, they work closely with the product leader. Another key player is the Scrum Master, who acts as a mini project manager to keep the Scrum cycles on time. They work with the team to break down one or more pieces of functionality from the product backlog into developer tasks that will be completed in the next development cycle. In Scrum, these developers' tasks are stored in a queue called the sprint backlog. So the designers and the developers and the QA complete the task in the sprint backlog to produce one or more pieces of working functionality within each time box sprint, typically within 1 to 4 weeks. The working functionality produced from each sprint adds to the working product. One or more of these pieces combine to deliver features in the product that provide value to the customer and user. When the business grows beyond a small startup, there are typically multiple teams running sprints concurrently for the same product. The purpose of these sprints may be to add features, work on infrastructure, patch or fix bugs, or refine the UX. To integrate multiple concurrent sprints, a separate sprint team ensures they come together coherently. These are sometimes called the Scrum of Scrums and are composed of individual Agile team leads. As you can imagine, there are challenges that come from coordinating multiple teams that produce work concurrently and synchronizing it every few weeks. One of these has to do with the workflow through the system. When the work is on a trained schedule, it has to be delivered within the agreed amount of time. Unforeseen obstacles, technical glitches, personnel issues, and inaccurate estimates often complicate even the most carefully planned train schedule, creating imbalances between the various teams. The terms flow and Kanban are used to describe the balance of work through and across the teams. To support this, the work is initially allocated in a way that leaves a little slack time in each sprint. If resources become constrained in one of the teams, this slack allows resources to be loaned as needed to balance and maintain the flow. Now, this is a high-level outline of a typical Scrum development process. In upcoming sections, we'll learn more detail about these activities, timings, and interactions. An important part of the Scrum process is how functionality is described and communicated. In Scrum, user stories are information packets that move through the process to inform everyone what needs to be built. This slide is a duplicate of the previous Scrum process, except the backlog and product is now filled with user stories. The format is simple, yet effective way to communicate the who, what, why of customer needs. So the format is this. As a specific user, I want to be able to accomplish this so that I get this benefit. So the variables are what user it is, what do you want to accomplish, and what the benefit is if you're able to get this. A user story carries the built-in template that keeps everyone who defines and uses it on the same understanding. It is lightweight for quick assembly, consumption, and disposal. Verbal descriptions and other written documentation can also be used to supplement user stories. We'll find out more in much more detail in later sections about what stories are and how to use them. So how can I start using this? So if you have a Scrum developers or not, break down your product features into progressively smaller chunks. And it takes a lot of time to change company project culture, and you have to realize this up front. If the build estimate is 6 months, can you divide it into thirds? Or maybe are you able to deliver something once a month? So you may not be able to get it down to maybe once a week in your Scrum cycles, but you can go into shorter and shorter increments.